So good afternoon. Tell me about yourself and your business, please.
Yeah, well, I'm Ric Dyer. I'm the founder of Symphonia Spirits, a distillery here in Moy, in between Armagh and Dungannon, just on the borders of County Armagh and Tyrone. My background, quite interestingly, is I'm a chemist by training. I have a PhD in chemistry, and after spending a couple of years at Harvard University, I was headhunted into the pharmaceutical industry to use my chemistry to discover new molecules. I did that for 30 years and then decided I would turn my attention and creativity to gin making instead.
And are there molecules in gin, or is it a complete diversification from what you did before?
No, so distillation is just one of the skills that we do as part of scaling up pharmaceutical processes. And there are millions of molecules in gin. At the very basic level, gin is flavoured alcohol, typically of a purity around vodka purity, and then you use the alcohol to extract out beautiful flavours and fragrances from botanicals. Those flavours and fragrances are molecules. So the understanding of how those molecules behave, their physical properties, gives me a big advantage about how to extract out those molecules in the most efficient way, but also respecting their properties as well, because some of the botanicals are very, very delicate.
I'll never have a gin and tonic without thinking of that again from now on. So this is genuinely life-changing stuff. So how long have you been in the gin business for?
4 years. We launched exactly 4 years ago last weekend. For a large amount of that time, that has just been myself in the business, but we're starting to take on a few staff as we grow and we add elements to the business. I started out setting up the distillery in my double garage just next to the house, and then in 2020 we moved down to the distillery here in Moy, where we fitted out one building, and we have another building to fit out as a visitor centre. So that's where we've been going, and we now have 3 staff to help me out.
Excellent. And I guess when you were growing up, did you ever envisage that you would be making gin in Northern Ireland?
I never envisaged either of those two things growing up in Yorkshire, that I would end up in Northern Ireland, because at the time, all we saw in the news about Northern Ireland was the Troubles. I never imagined that I would be using my chemistry skills to be making gin. I'd always had a passion for working in the pharmaceutical industry and using my chemistry for the greater good, if you want to look at it from an altruistic point of view. But absolutely never to then go, I've got 30 years experience of scaling up pharmaceuticals, let me apply that knowledge to make gin. But that's what I've done. And I've actually taken a step back and looked at how people make gin and realized that it's a very inefficient and antiquated way of doing it, which uses a tremendous amount of energy when that's not necessary nowadays in the 21st century. We've now got electric cars rather than horse and carts. The vast majority of gin makers will use the horse and cart technology. I've brought it right up to date with 2 techniques that are really groundbreaking.
Fantastic. That sounds really interesting. So who would be your ideal customer?
Ideal customer is generally people who appreciate some of the finer things in life, food and drink. You know, foodies who are looking for obviously great taste, but also provenance as well. So using local things or some things that have, you know, a real element of authenticity and reflect, you know, particularly the Northern Irish countryside and the ingredients that you can get around here. So, you know, we're looking at, as I say, for people who, you know, would look to spend a little bit more on, you know, food and drink, you know, so would pay a little bit more for a bottle of wine. They'd go out and buy a craft gin or whiskey type things, because, you know, they're looking to treat themselves, you know, and it's that sort of customer that we're looking for, rather than someone going out looking for a bargain as such, because, you know, it's not that.
All right, okay. So you say you've been going for 4 years. So obviously a lot has happened in the last 4 years, to say the least. So of all the actions you've taken because of the pandemic, are there any that will remain as part of your business?
Totally, yeah. So to try and compensate for the lack of sales of the spirits themselves, we have set up a visitor attraction where we offer tastings of our products with a little tour. I mean, there's not a great deal to see, because it looks more like a lab than what you would imagine something like Bushmills distillery, where absolutely chalk and cheese. We call ourselves a distillery with a difference. So we've set up a visitor attraction, and that helps in terms of, you know, the revenue, but also helps in terms of brand awareness and getting the message out there. And it's a good way of doing it, because, you know, people here, they have a great time, and they become, you know, brand advocates for Symphonia. And so that has been probably one of the best things that, you know, we've done to counter the fact that hospitality was closed down for virtually 2 years, and so our sales were reflected, you know, the same as that. So 80% of our sales was from hospitality.
And what would you say has been your biggest learning since becoming a business owner?
Biggest learning. There's been so many learnings. It's hard to say. I think, you know, when we started out, we decided that we were going to spend a good budget on developing our brand and the look of the brand and everything about Symphonia, and not to skimp on that, and not to do it in a very sort of amateur way, and have the look really, really professional, even though there's just me in the company. So it's a bit like a swan on the lake sort of thing. And that was a good learning, because with a premium product like ours, you need it to look right, to sound right, and to, you know, present the right image to capture the customers we were talking about earlier.
And what would you say is the biggest challenge you face today?
I think a lot of it is resilience. You know, when things don't quite work out how you expect, how you respond to that, and both from, you know, a positive mindset mentally. You know, people talk about mental health all the time now, and it's about how you maintain a positive outlook in times when you have, you know, significant challenges. And in the last 2 years, those challenges have not been of your own making as such. It's not been a bad decision you've made or anything like that. It's just been the sheer unpredictability of the day to day and how you respond and adapt and cope with that has been, you know, a big learning.
And what would you say inspires you the most today? What gives you the most inspiration?
I think the fact that I've created 4 products that didn't exist before, you know, created them from scratch, and people come up to you, and you know, when you're at events and things like that, and you're doing tastings and things like that, and people come up and say, that is fantastic, I love that, I'll buy that type of thing. There's nothing better than something you've created that somebody wants, and that keeps
Brilliant.
you going in the hard times, you know.
Yeah, really good, really good. And if it were possible, Ric, what advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
Well, so I started this. Well, I left a very good job 5 years ago to do this. On hindsight, I would have said to the 18-year-old person, do it sooner. You know, do it sooner. You know, because you know, the things you learn from running your own company, and as I say, creating something from scratch, adding value, you know, creating wealth. You know, even if the first, even as they say, if at first you don't succeed, you know, all that learning, you know, will be useful the next time along or the next time along. And you know, I really wish I'd have done it, you know, that bit sooner.
No, some great advice there, and I'm sure you're going to get more fans of Symphonia from this. But are there any offers or anything that you'd like to sort of say about your products or anything for the newsletter? Or
so we've just opened our gin school, and that is a really exciting thing, because it's not like a typical gin school that other companies offer, because what they would offer would be you would take dry ingredients, put them into a still, heat that up, and the alcohol creates the gin, and what you get out of that is you've got one shot to make a great gin, and it is very difficult to do. What our gin school does is it offers you a series of different flavors from the countryside. So we have captured flavors from all sorts of things that grow, you know, plants and herbs that grow around the distillery. So we're even actually today we are distilling cut grass as one of the flavor notes that you can use, and so customers will come, try the whole range of flavor notes, see which things they like. So they might like cut grass in their gin. We've got that flavor around. They may like, obviously, Bramley apples that grow plentiful around here. You know, it could be dandelions that they want to feature in their gin. But the good thing is they get a chance to experiment a good number of times before they perfect their recipe, before we scale it up to produce them a big bottle. So it's a great way of actually tasting the Northern Irish countryside and creating a gin out of it.
That sounds brilliant. They say every day is a school day. If every day was a gin school day, that would take it to another level.
Yeah.
So listen, Ric Dyer of Woodlab Distillery, thank you very much. It's been brilliant to hear about yourself, your story, and your business. Thank you very much indeed.